Becoming a female pilot in Canada in 2018. One of my subscribers, Old White Guy, asked me to make a video about what it's like to become a pilot in Canada in this modern day era. So since that is something that's near and dear to my heart and I'm quite familiar with it, I thought, yeah, that's probably a good idea. So here it is. What does it take to become a pilot in Canada? 3 things. I could sum it up in just those 3 things. Time, money, because it's expensive, and motivation, because it's a lot of work. So if you're not capable of delivering on all those 3 things, I'd think twice about it. So I'll just give a brief background on my own formation as a pilot. I started in 1990 and just wanted to do it for a challenge and got my private pilot's license. I was working full-time at the time as a high school teacher. I had a young family, so it was hard to do it quickly, and I wasn't a natural at it by any means. Over the years, I've come to understand in my view, there are 2 kinds of pilots. There are naturals, and then there are mechanical pilots. Eventually, they meet in the middle, and the natural ones who seem to wear it like an article of clothing pick it up quicker, but the mechanical ones, they dissect it and they work on understanding the aspects of it in a different way, but everybody ultimately gets to the same place. It's very rigorous in terms of standards. Transport Canada has very regimented curriculum, both a ground school portion and a flight exercise portion, both of which are tested at the end of the completion of whatever license you're working on. So it starts with the private license. Mine took me 2 years to get. You should be able to get in a lot less than that, again, depending on how much time you have, how much money you have, and how motivated you are. From getting the private license, I went on to get a commercial license, and commercial license is not to be confused with those who are able to jump into an Air Canada jet, say, and get flying. Commercial simply means now somebody can hire you and pay you. A private license, you may fly for fun, take friends who can help you pay for gas, that sort of thing, but you may not charge anybody money for your services. So after your commercial license, you can go on to do very many different things. The next route that I took was to get my instructor rating, and an instructor rating allows you to teach other people who are getting their private and commercial licenses. You can also get a multi-engine rating, which I have, and then you can get an instrument rating, which is quite a bit of work. I found that perhaps the most challenging of all of them. That allows you to fly in the clouds, and it's quite a lot of procedure to learn, and again, regulations. However, with all of the modern avionics available to pilots nowadays, it's really a lot easier than when I was learning it back in the late 90s. And then the final license for me, anyway, I also have a float rating, which you can get. And the final license for me was my airline transport rating. So technically speaking, I am now fully equipped in terms of licenses and ratings to fly for Air Canada. But A, I'm too old, and B, I have no interest, never did have any interest in it. It has always, for me, just represented a great challenge. Continues to this day to be a challenge. I own my own airplane, which is based in Florida. For a number of reasons, and I fly out of there. My husband and I own a home down there, and the biggest reason really is cost. It's way more cost effective to own an airplane under a company name in Florida and anywhere in the U.S. for that matter than it is to own it and hangar it and insure it and put gas in it up here in Canada, where we're taxed to death on just about everything we do. So financially, it made sense, and also for other reasons. Mostly really for the availability of parts and mechanical care when needed. And to this day, the thrill of flying stays with me. It's not something I always wanted to do since a child. I like I said at the beginning of this video, I came to it with an attitude that I wanted to do something completely different from what I'd always done. I had a very academic formation, and I wanted to try something completely different and challenging. It was all of those things. It remains to this day a challenge. And for me, the bottom line is now when I fly, I find it very therapeutic. So there's that additional element for me. Your focus must be 100% all the time. You're not allowed to think about other things that might be a part of your daily challenges in life or your problems or whatever other things you might think of going through a normal day. You're focused 100+% on the task at hand. And there are a few sayings in aviation, one that I'll share with you. There are old pilots and there are bold pilots, but there are no old, bold pilots. So in other words, you've got a lot of decision making that's involved, not only having the mechanical hands and feet skills. Now, the other thing that old white guy asked me was, is there a difference between men and women going for licenses in Ontario? Well, in fact, it's governed by federal law. So it's Canada that makes the laws, and it doesn't matter what gender you are. In fact, there's supposed to be 6 of them now or something like that. So you can be any gender and get a license, provided you fulfill the requirements that are mandated by Transport Canada. As I mentioned before, they're quite rigorous. There is no room for error. They're not flexible at all. You're required to retest periodically and to prove that you are current and recent. And I won't go into the difference between what that means, but to continue after a license to be proficient is actually almost a greater challenge, because what these are pilot Barbie statistics, but after a class, let's say a group of 100 people that go through for a pilot's license, private license, the entry-level license. A year later, maybe 10 of those people will have graduated because they either didn't have the time, they didn't have the money, or they didn't have the motivation. And of those 10 graduates, if you follow them another further year later, maybe 1 will still be flying, because not everybody can own an airplane. It's expensive to continue to fly, even if you're just a renter from a school. The availability of aircraft can be complicated because you're competing with other students. And your skills can quickly become rusty. So there are a lot of things you got to think about before embarking on such a hobby. But for me, it's been fabulous past 25 plus years of attempting things that were not comfortable for me, not necessarily familiar for me, but which have been immensely and continue to be immensely gratifying. So I hope this was of interest to people other than old white guy. Thanks for watching.